Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Border Explorer Live. Yes, good afternoon live. And we are, of course, reading good old HV Morton's In Search of England. Hope you're all well. Thank you for coming and joining me. If you have, if you haven't, then I don't know you're there. Well, excuse me, it's 4 o'clock on the, what is it, the 7th of July, 2020. Hello to Turbo Stream, to the lovely Julia, to Linda Kane, to Audrey Forbes, and anybody else who happens to have tuned in. Thank you very much. Just getting myself organised. Good afternoon from boiling Madrid, 40 degrees. I'm in my back bedroom, darkened with ice cold beer. Fantastic. We've got 2 days of rain coming. We've had a nice day. I've been out walking in the fields with cows. Cows are on the other side of a barbed wire fence. So I was all right. I kept calling them cows, but they were bulls. They were males. They weren't. So I was with a field of cattle, not really cows. I keep saying cows when I don't mean cows, when I mean bulls. Anyway, there you go. What can you say to that? Not very much. I cycled past HV Morton School the other day, says Turbo Stream. Gosh, I didn't know. Did you wave? Did he wave at you? Did he come out and say, hello, mate? How are you? I've got something on my glasses. Hello to Steve G. Excuse me whilst I just adjust the focus. Wouldn't it be great? An invention that they need to come in with glasses you can adjust the focus on. That's what they need to do. I think they're possible. They probably don't look very good. Bullocks. Yes, thanks to you. Bullocks to you too, Linda. That's very kind of you. I haven't even started yet. And she's throwing the veg at me. Actually, talking of that, I need to go over and try and find some good veg that's got minerals and nutrients in. I've been reading more of my book by Graham Harvey. Oh, and I'm worried now. You must put the right stuff. He said, get off my land, you beggar. I bet he did. Get off. The cats turned up for this one, says James Poulton. Marvellous. Nice to see you, pussycats. Whoa, 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 whoa. Right, here we go then. I wish I was in the Downs, Richard, in the little cave, nice, quiet. Well, there was a beautiful. I shouldn't really tell you this now. I mean, look, I've got a jumper on. There was a nice little breeze. There was a nice, gentle little breeze up there on the Downs. I didn't have a jumper on then, but it's a bit chilly in my back room. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Hello to Graham Roffey, by the way, and Ed Loud, and Andy English. Sorry, you're all sneaking in when I'm not looking. Here we go. This is continuing from wherever it was we were here last time. I hope I managed to read this a bit better than yesterday. He was standing in the cathedral close at Exeter reading his guidebook, like a good American, ready to be friendly on the slightest provocation. I was thinking that if you close your mind to detail, the cathedral cities of England are deliciously alike. They have grown up on the same pattern out of the same past. I like the invariable narrow entrance to the precincts, the green trees which look as if each one is valeted. The close... Sorry, I had a lump of cheese before I started, and you know how it cloys around your teeth and mouth. That's what it's doing. The close-cut grass, the bright chatter of sparrows, the slow chime of bells, the discreet Georgian doors and heavy brass knockers. Everyone loves a good heavy brass knocker, don't they? Which mark themselves out as the barriers between the world and the dean's dignity. Each close is drenched in the same air of ancient peace. High above dream the grey walls and towers, whose every stone proclaims an age of boundless faith. The American entered Exeter Cathedral, and I followed. Here is a piece of perfectly balanced architecture, a beautiful, but to me unemotional cathedral. Each arch, the exact echo of another arch, each pillar the replica of its opposite. It's like a problem in mathematics set to music. It's almost too perfect. At one moment it seems that the whole fragment might fly up to heaven or dissolve in cold, formal music. The thing that keeps Exeter Cathedral firmly rooted to the earth is the organ, erected in an unfortunate position above the choir, so that you cannot see beyond the great east window. This is Exeter's anchor of ugliness. I know that it is a marvellous organ, that because Exeter is one cathedral in England with transeptual towers, there's no other place for it, that does not lessen the shock. "Say," said the American, "can you tell me what a recorder is?" "A magistrate." "No, it's some kind of musical instrument. This book says that the angels carved on the minstrel's gallery are playing a violo, a harp, bagpipes, a trumpet, an organ, cymbals, and a recorder." We went up together and looked at the earliest English stone orchestra I know of. "That's a recorder," I suggested. "That instrument played by the third angel from the left." "That's a kind of old saxophone." "It is rather like a saxophone." "Well, that's pretty cute. Saxophones in heaven." Huh. We walked out into the close, talking. He had stopped off the boat at Plymouth and was, as he put it, just tickled to death by Exeter. "I don't know a darn thing about England yet," he said, "but I'm getting a line on her sure enough. If it's all like this, well, I'm glad I came over." I asked him what tickled him about Exeter. He replied thoughtfully, "Do you know America?" "I regret to say that I've never been there." "Well, we kind of sneer at tradition, but believe me, under our skins, we admire it, and we wish we had it. We don't know what it is to have roots." Other than in your hair, of course, I suppose. "Now, this morning I went to the place, the City Hall here, the Guildhall they call it, that old place with a top story hanging over the main street. There's a guy there dressed like a cop. They call him a sergeant at mace. He told me things about this town till I was dizzy. You've had a lot of kings in England. That fella balled me up with William the Conqueror, King Charles, and a queen called, wait, hang on, I'll look in my diary, Henrietta. Yeah, that's the gal. And then he took me upstairs and he showed me the mayor's chains and things. Proud as Lucifer, that guy was, because something or other was older than something or other in London. And I saw a sword covered in a black cloth. I said to him, jollying a bit, why don't you get all that stuff off it? What? Why don't you get all that stuff off it? What's the idea? He looked at me kind of shocked, and I could see him thinking, you poor Yank, he thought, you poor ignorant fish. That sword, sir, he said, that was put in mourning for King Charles I, and it's still mourning for him. Well, gee, I just walked right out. The motto of this town is always faithful. Sure. The history means... Hang on a minute. Who's talking now? Sure, this history means a lot. I can imagine how it feels to have a city like Exeter in the family. I'm a New Englander. I don't know if that's a New Englander accent. I don't even know if that's an American accent. I don't know what accent it is, but it's just there to differentiate between Morton talking, me talking, and the American talking. So who's going to criticize me next? I dare say there's some old... Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I'm a New Englander. I guess I've got some English blood in me, and maybe that's why this old stuff gets me going. Now, look at that crazy old shop. We went into a bookshop where I bought a map of Cornwall. I don't know, said the bookseller shyly, whether you two... I don't know, said the bookseller shyly, whether you two gentlemen would care to step upstairs and see my old room. Oh, yeah. What's in your old room, mate? You bet your life, said the American. We went up a dark staircase and entered a low room that overhung the high street. The floor was uneven, the ceiling was Stuart. The walls were panelled in oak, and the windows were small and lead. Prince Rupert lived here when Exeter was held for the king. Well, what do you think of that? Said the American. And we went down again. I don't know who Prince Rupert was, whispered my friend, but, hey, wasn't that just bully? Well, mighty glad to know you. Goodbye now, goodbye. What gets me is that sword, I don't know. You can't beat it. Really, when you come to think of it, you cannot. These snug old towns of ours, these Exeters, it's not a town, it's a city, so quiet, so assured, to have known their own minds for so long, to have fought and won, or equally gloriously lost their battles, for so long that no man can be insensible to their dignity and their power. They seem to sleep, and that's where you are liable to go wrong. In 1914, they proved how swiftly their old eyes can look at the present, how quickly their experienced hands can feel the grip still firm upon a hilt. Or should that be a bayonet? You lot have been chattering away quite a bit. Let's have a look. Good afternoon to Mark Donny McLeod. Mike Stevens, hello to you. Gentle folks. ABB says, I think you should do a Peter Vorbs Evil Mastermind spoof channel. Mr. Suggest should star too. Way too little common sense in the world today. Ah, yes. Morton says he must have been well connected to go to Edgbaston School. That's a top place. Oh, you're talking about Morton again. This organ and choir joke could get banned, so backs off. Right. He went to King Edward the Seventh School, very highbrow. Did you have to have your eyes that high up here, sort of thing? Is that how highbrow they were? Hi, Richard says, Joel D. Hardy. Hello, Joel D. Hardy. Nice to have you coming along with us. Don't forget, if you're enjoying any of this nonsense, do give us a thumbs up. It's always nice. MDM says, I cycle past Edgbaston's grounds sometimes. Your accents are cracking, says Richard. Come up and see my etchings. Yes, I know. Phew, got there, says Lee Lawson. A bit late. No, don't worry. You've only missed the American. And Mark Donny says, I've been there a few times. Wonder how much of that Exeter remained after the pummeling it took in World War II. Yes, it was on one of the Baedeker raids, wasn't it? And I did make a video in Exeter. And if you want to see a Englishman pumped up on steroids to the point that I am pretty much unrecognisable, you wouldn't believe it was me, then put in Richard Vobes and Exeter into YouTube and you will be shocked at the Michelin Man. I was losing my eye at the time and it is shocking. Anyway, what book are you reading, says Joel D. Hardy. We are reading, we do this at 4 o'clock every day, weekdays. This is The Search of England, In Search of England by HV Morton, written in about 1920, 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, this is what England was like, and that's what we're interested in. Well, allegedly, people chat amongst themselves and talk about other things, and I assume they're listening, but they're usually, just sort of humouring me, I think. Laurel is there, says, hi everyone, watching with a cup of tea while the grey clouds gather outside. Yes, well, I'm sorry to say, we've got 2 days of rain down here in Sussex. I'm not looking forward to that. Right. Next little section coming up. Every boy in England should be taken at least once to Plymouth. He should, if small, be torn away from his mother, or iPad, and sent out for a night with the fishing fleet. He should go out in the tenders to meet the Atlantic liners. He should be shown battleships building at Davenport. He should be taken to the Barbican and told the story of the Mayflower and the birth of New England. And most important of all, his imagination should be kindled by tales of Hawkins and Drake on high green Plymouth Hoe, the finest promenade in Europe. I've been on Plymouth Hoe. I've said, "What ho?" on Plymouth Hoe. It was evening when I went up to the Hoe. Darkness was falling. An old goon's joke there. In every town there was one place where youth and beauty parade at night under the glum influence of the spirit of natural selection. The girls walk 2 by 2, the boys in vague bands. Now and then there is a little sociability known as clicking. Of course, social distancing is swept under the cover at this point. If a youth, after passing and repassing a particular maid for about 10 miles, 10 miles, eventually says, "Oh, good evening," and she stops and replies to the youth, the youth is said to have clicked. This parade of mutual suspicion goes on every night in every high street. In Plymouth, it takes place on the spot where Francis Drake is said to have been playing bowls when they told him that the Spaniards were in sight. Far below, the grey waters of the Sound lay smooth between the sheltering cliffs. The breakwater was faint, grey line on the sea. There were lights on Drake Island, lights on Mount Edgecombe, lights on the grey destroyer steaming towards the dockland at Davenport. From the right came the distant sound of hammering against metal, a vigorous touch in this peaceful scene, a reminder that Plymouth is more than ever Plymouth. Straight out of the sea, 15 miles away, over grey waters, snapped a light, the most famous light on the British coast, the light of the Eddystone. I don't think that's there now, is it? The Eddystone Lighthouse, I think, is on Plymouth Hoe, isn't it? They've moved it, they've taken it away, and they've got some electronic light. But they've now, I don't know why I'm pointing, because when I was walking on it, it's up on the top of the green, isn't it? If I remember rightly. Yeah, so there we go, straight out of the Eddie. I'm sorry for the man who can stand for the first time on Plymouth Hoe without a tingling of the blood. I sat and looked out to the fast fading seascape, and I thought about Southwark. Southwark? Is it Southwark? There was a link between this lovely Devon hill above the sea and the grim region of warehouses. Oh, Southwark. He's talking about Southwark in London. Okay, fair dues. There is a link between this lovely Devon hill above the sea and the grim region of warehouses on the south bank of the Thames. The one means Shakespeare, Marlowe, Ben Jonson. The other, Drake, Hawkins, Cook, Sir Humphrey Gilbert. Southwark, the centre of the Elizabethan revival in literature. Plymouth, linked forever with the Elizabethan discovery of the world. It seemed to me, as night fell over Plymouth Sound, that I could imagine those grim old swashbucklers who went pirating along the Gulf of Mexico, calling on God to take a hand with them in the slave traffic. They planted a few flags for us. I remember a number of disjointed stories, how Cochrane sailed into the Sound with 3 golden candlesticks taken from a Spanish galleon lashed to his masthead, how 3 ships came home from Nom de Doigt full of plate and Spanish pieces somewhere around 1573. Poor old Morton Lewis, they're raiding your flat. With a man on deck who, from the top of a tree, had taken the first sight of the Pacific and had sworn to sail an English ship in those waters. Land ahoy! At the back of the statue of St. Francis Drake, at the back of me, the statue of St. Francis, not Saint, at the back, I don't know whether he is a saint or not, but anyway, at the back of me, the statue of Francis Drake was black against the sky. He stands with one hand on the globe and the other above his sword hilt. If Drake played bowls on the Hoe, did he play uphill or down? I asked a man sitting next to me. Well, he replied with that kindly Devon smile, in his day they do say that Hole was not so bumpy. He's supposed to have been playing on a green which stood where his statue is now. Whether he finished the game or not, when the Armada came in sight, I don't know. I was in the army during the war, and I imagine that there must have been some considerable wind-up, don't you? Do you, as a Devon man, really suggest that Francis Drake ever had the wind-up? I asked, horrified. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. My companion was interested, as most Plymouth men are, in the history of his town, and we sat together on the Hoe, attempting to drag the year 1588 out of the past. The last promenada departed. A chill wind blew from the sea. In our imagination we saw a fleet of 100 sail set out from Plymouth to meet the ships under Dom Alfonso Pierre de Gunsman, Duke of Sidonia, who had decided that when he had conquered England he would take Mount Edgecombe at Plymouth for his English residence. It must have been a great moment on the Hoe as the Spanish galleons came slowly, heavily from the Lizard up Channel. The 100 little ships going out into the blue sea to meet them. I would rather have lived in that age than any other, said my companion. He was a frail-looking man, as frail-looking almost as Nelson. That must have seemed like such a big place then. Hang on, who's talking now? Him, me, him. The world must have seemed such a big place then, if one could have gone with Drake in 1577 in the Golden Hind. Ah, now the Mauretania is due tomorrow. Yes, he sighed, with a sibilant S. Have you noticed? He's got a bit of a sibilant S there, up along, down along, round along the billabong, see? Sibilant S, poor bugger. How, I said, would you like to have burnt up Vera Cruz, to have sacked the churches and driven the natives below hatches and then held a church parade? Splendid, he whispered. Splendid. That was the spirit. More sibilant S's there. Very sibilant now. That was the spirit of the time. Well, I must be going home now. No night there. He said good night, and I watched his lank, dyspeptic, bloodthirsty figure disappear into the distance. There, good night there, dear. Have a nice time on Plymouth Hoe. If you're still there in the morning, I'll come there with a nice bowl of cereal, and you can have a little bit of a natter up. And later on, you can have some scrumpy. Bye-bye now. Goodbye. Oh, goodbye. Sorry, I'd already gone to bed. Beyond the breakwater, a liner passed far out at sea, her lit portholes like a string of pearls on the water. A ship's siren called at the mouth of the harbour. Hello. 15 miles south of Eddystone snapped. 15 miles south, the Eddystone snapped and winked a little pinpoint of light, directing the traffic, saying every minute, "Here, my children, is Plymouth but for goodness sake, steer clear of me. Hello. I added a few little extra sound effects. The Spanish officer I teach always reminds me of Drake, says Morton Lewis, and that I am a descendant of pirates. That sounds very funny. Smeaton's tower was taken down and rebuilt on the Hoe. The Eddystons rocks have a more modern replacement these days. It was the rocks under the lighthouse giving way, not Smeaton's lighthouse. Oh yes, Smeaton's light. I've got a book on that whole subject. I forgot about Smeaton's thing. Thank you very much for putting me right. Eddystone Lighthouse is, of course, off the coast of Cornwall. Isn't Plymouth just outside Cornwall? And the locals were so thankful, says Ben Reeve. Oh, wait a minute. Smeaton's tower was taken down. Oh, yes, it's rocks. And the locals were so thankful they had it built as a tribute to Smeaton. Can see the lighthouse 14 miles offshore in decent weather from the Hoe. Marvellous. I think Frankie was a bit of a privateer pirate, says Mark Donny MacLeod. Talking about Francis Drake. Certainly wasn't a saint, says Michael Angel, who is a saint, of course. And there is Spanish blood in Cornwall and Ireland from the stranded sailors from the Armada. Oh, hello. I can't do it now. The sound of a foghorn. Hello. Joel Hardy, off topic, says, what's your favourite disused railway to walk? I enjoy them. I'm not much of a disused railway walker, actually, staying off topic for a moment, mainly because they're quite bland and boring. You know, the idea is that trains ran on them, and apart from at very small intervals, you know, they don't go off on little footpaths down glens and through glades and through a spinney and up and down over yonder hill. They sort of just go very straight with very not much happening. I've walked a couple. I did the Downs link to Christ Hospital from Shoreham once, about 22 miles. But after a while, it's just a bit of a tedious, repetitive thing. It's just going along like this and walking along and diddly-dum, diddly-do, diddly-dum, diddly-dee, diddly-do, diddly-dum, diddly-dee, diddly-dum. I'd much rather walk other places, to be fair. I got chucked out of Jamaica Inn for underage drinking, said Turbo Stream. That's dodgy. So there we go. Right, okay, how are we doing? We better read a bit more. Oh, just whipped my glasses full off. I went to the Barbican to see the spot from which the Mayflower sailed, expecting to find all the Americans in the west of England standing round in reverent attitudes with iPhones and Google watches at the ready. Instead, I found a lame old sailor sitting on a wooden seat smoking a stubby pipe. Puff, puff. Good morning, I said. Morning, sir, he replied, removing his pipe and spitting neatly into Sutton Pull. The sun feels good. Does that, sir? It certainly does. We watched the fishing fleet unloading at Sutton Wharf. The trawlers had been out for over a week in stormy seas, and they had slipped in on a calm tide when the salt caked to their smoky stacks, and a week's auburn whiskers on the cruise. The wharf was slippery with fish scales and crushed ice. Strong-voiced Devon men stood above limp piles of dead fish, such enormous skate the size of card tables, dogfish, soles, plaice, crabs, and purple lobsters. The fishermen clopped over the stones in their thigh boots, their faces the colour of Spanish mahogany, their bodies in blue jerseys, their legs in brown trousers. A lovely, colourful picture in the bright sun of the forenoon. So, The Mayflower sailed from here." The old sailor pointed to the head of the jetty with his pipe. "That it did, sir, in 1620, as you can see from that there stone." He got up and he limped over to a stone set in the roadway. "Mayflower, 1620. There you are, sir," he said, pointing to the inscription. "If you was American, you'd ask me—" It sounds drunk now. "If you was American, you'd ask me to take the photograph on it," said the old man. "And quite right, too. If it hadn't been for the Mayflower, where would America be now? Thank you, sir." He brightened considerably. "See that house there, number 9, the Barbican? That's the house where the Pilgrim Fathers slept the night before they sailed." "What? The whole 120? "Well, sir, as many as could, maybe. Who knows? I wasn't there, see?" I went over to number 9, the Barbican. It may be one of England's undiscovered treasures. It is one of the few remaining Elizabethan houses on the Barbican, as 120 Pilgrim Fathers had to find bed and breakfast as near the jetty as possible on September the 5th, 1620. It seems highly probable that some of them slept at number 9. Anyhow, it would not be difficult to make out an argument for it. The ground floor of the house is now a coal agent's office. "I believe," said the man behind the counter, "that unless they can prove that the Pilgrim's father really did sleep here, this house may be pulled down in slum improvement schemes." It is surely the duty of Plymouth to solve this problem. Hang on, who's talking? Who is talking? I just don't know. "It is strange that not many Americans know this house, and I don't think it's mentioned in the guidebooks. We call it Mayflower House, and the tradition here on the Barbican is that the Pilgrims put it up here, and other houses since pulled down while their ships were being overhauled." I asked him if I might explore the old place. "Oh, well, no, an old lady lives upstairs," he replied. You might ask her." I mounted a dark staircase. At the top, in a gloomy little room, an old woman was peeling potatoes. I told her I was interested in the Mayflower. She dipped a potato in water. "I'm busy," she said. I saw that quite a large pile of potatoes separated me from historical investigation. "I can't show you over now," she said, "or what will my men say when they find their dinner not ready, "Oh, well, quite right," I said. "The work of the world must come first. You can take it from me." "You can take it from me." Sorry about this. I've not prepared any of this, you understand. "You can take it from me," remarked the old woman with an air of finality which no man would dare to question. "This is Mayflower House, and there's no doubt about it. I know it is." "I begin to feel it is too," I said. "Do you?" she replied. "Well, if you come back another day when I'm not busy, maybe I will take you over it. It's a queer old house, this, you know." She bathed another potato and assaulted it with a knife. I went down the dark stairway into the Barbican, for fear she might fling the thing at me. I added the last bit. A narrow flight of stone leads back to the Plymouth Hoe. I mounted them. The sailing of the Mayflower was one of the most dramatic events in the last 300 years. Think how much was storing up for the world when that little ship went westward ho. As I stood overlooking the sea, an unforgettable thing happened. A queenly cunarder, prompt to the minute, steamed, puff, puff, slowly into the Sound and lay at anchor beyond the breakwater. Fussy little tenders steamed beneath her mountainous sides. There was great activity on her decks. The mails were lowered. The tender sped back with them towards Plymouth. Slowly the long, slender ship moved out to sea again on her way to Southampton. When I reached the hotel, I found it full of Pilgrim fathers. "Oh, say, get some ice water, and waiter, 3 dry martinis. Gee, look here. What's this, chickweed? How much? Is it 6pence?" I had a swift vision of the first Pilgrim fathers kneeling on the shores of Mass, returning thanks for their safe arrival. You know the picture, the wind blowing their hair, the broad felt hats in their hands, beyond the inhospitable dunes, so soon to blossom with safety razors and stock suspenders. "American Express? That'll do nicely." "Here's mud in your eye," said one of the modern pilgrims, tossing down his martini. It is seldom that life is so artistic. Or even autistic, I should think. Oh, we're nearly at the end of the chapter. We will resume in a minute. I love Demure's book, The Scapegoat. I see Richard has it on his bookcase. Yes, I haven't read that. Is it worth reading? That's Daphne du Maurier, isn't it? Morton, yes, dates back from 1730. Ooh. Taking a break from work in the fields with 10 minutes of Morton and Vobes. Fantastic. Hello all, says Andrew Norris. Slaving away, just like a good 'un. Good for you, sir. Morton Lewis says Mark Don. Oh, he's talking to Mark Donny. Linda, whatever, not saying anything. Graham Roffey says, looks like they sell ice cream at Pilgrim's house now. Oh, yes. I bet it's the same ice cream the Pilgrim's fathers ate as they left. Very good Ed Bishop impersonation. Oh, yes, Ed Bishop. Remember Ed Bishop? He was in UFO, wasn't he? Ed Bishop in UFO. I know. I should be back in the fields instead of enjoying a few minutes with the Vobes, putting up a fence around the veg garden. I've got to keep the Vobes out. I've got to keep the Vobes out. Well, when those Vobeses come over, you know, they'll want to get in there. Right, we're on section 10, the last bit of this particular chapter, and this will take us up to chapter 4, and then we will stop. I've read somewhere that when women make a garment, they take a paper pattern, place it over the material, and cut it out. Cut it out! Remember old James Robinson Justice? Cut it out, man! Cut it out! Oh, Doctor on Call or some such film. Battleships are made this way too. What? They take a pattern out of paper and then cut it out? Ridiculous. It seems incredible that the fleet can be cut out on the same principle as, forgive me, a petticoat. I went to a Davenport Dockyard from a strong sense of duty, quite prepared to be bored, for you cannot go to Plymouth and leave out Davenport. Or is it Davenport or Devonport? I'm saying Davenport. I think it must be Devonport, mustn't it? I no sooner... It's just because Davenport's a name. I don't always get that wrong. I no sooner had driven my car within the grey gates than I became interested. I expected a dockyard. I seemed to have entered an old public school or a cathedral close. His Majesty's Dockyard at Devonport can give points to any model factory in the country. It's a beautiful sight. The buildings are grey and old, on either side of an avenue of trees. The cobbled paths slope gently to the waters of the hemorrhaging I don't know what it is. At the docks, dock gates is an old grey chapel. There is much green grass, the graveyard, it seems, of sloops and frigates. For from this greenness spring old figureheads, their painted faces gazing into the sky, the grass shining upward on their chins. This, remarked my guide, is our museum. He took me into a building full of wooden giants, figureheads that dipped in many waters before the days of steam. Here, these soldiers and sailors have retired. It is the most exclusive and, may I say, experienced service club in the kingdom. The members lean out towards the walls, wearing old uniforms, dukes, generals, admirals, East Indiamen, a brave stony-faced club of old giants. What do they talk about when the dock gates are shut at night? Ah, sir, sighs the Duke of Marlborough to George I, how would you like to feel the Bay of Bengal warm on your waistcoat again? Oh, sir, would it not be good and invigorating to feel a broadside shake? You on the nose? What did you say? I'll read it again. Why don't you? I will. Would it not be good and invigorating to feel a broadside shake you on the nose? Says the Duke of Wellington. He's old and decrepit, you understand. Or, whispers Nelson from his corner, the trade winds in the night topgallant, and the white spume on your cheek. I don't know why I'm doing Nelson like that, but that's how he is now. If you want to see the yard, we better move on, said the guide. He dragged me away, kicking and screaming. No, don't do it. Don't make me go. I want to carry on with these stupid voices. In Davenport, they were building a new cruiser. Any girl who has made a coat and skirt can grasp the technical principle in a second. First, the architects draw the plan. Then they paint it in sections on steel plates. Little engines with the royal arms on them then fuss over the railway lines and carry the little plates to high, noisy sheds. Men, big, fat, beefy men, take the plates, put them on the machines that cut steel as a knife cuts butter, and then patterns of the new cruiser emerges. In one shed, machines punch rivet holes. In the next, they bend inch steel plate as easily as you can bend a sheet of cardboard. Like that. The engines puff over to the dockside with the sections. Puff, 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 puff. Push-to-cuff, push-to-cuff, push-to-cuff. Ivor. Push-to-cuff. At that moment, the cruiser looks like a giant hen coop. She rose above the dock, a rusty shell of a ship, with men clambering over her and applying compressed air riveters to her flanks. Oh, nice. On the dock lay the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, each one carefully numbered in white paint. When the builders require a few more yards of hull, they send down for a section S310. Here, section S310, coming up, said Bill on the dock as the big crane lifted section S310 into the air. 310! The men in the shell fitted S310 next to, guess what? S309, and then sent down for S311. 311. Have we got 311? 311? You sure? Is it 311? You want 311? Let me have a look. We've got 312. We got 313. We got 305. 300. Shouldn't they have done 305? I think they should have done 300. They've obviously missed that out. 300. What did you say? 311. Oh, I don't know that we've got 311. Right. We'll have to have every man will have to come out. We'll have to come out. I'm sorry. You haven't got 311. Right, all right, everyone. We're on strike now. Come on. Come down. We're going down the pub. They haven't got 311. High above, the shouting and the clang of the steel sections shot to earth. What? High above the shouting and the clang of steel sections shot to earth sounded the The steel sections shot to earth sounded the piercing shriek of the compressed air riveters. There was no slacking in the building of that cruiser, apart from the men that have just gone on strike, of course. Now and again the men cast a glance towards a board on the dock which told them how many tons they had already built and how many they had added during the present working week. "She is not being built against time for anything?" I asked suspiciously, "for the Great War was the war to end all wars, wasn't she? She's not being built for anything else, is she? I mean, there's no reason I need to be worried, is there?" "Oh, no, nothing to worry about on that score." "That's not it," said the guide. "We are racing Portsmouth, where they're building a similar cruiser. We means to win the race too, we does." Imagine with what emotion I discovered a queer little bit of steel with 4 holes punched in it, lying ready on the dockside, an insignificant little angel of a hull, but as I instinctively felt. What a strange sentence. Imagine with what emotion I discovered a queer little bit of... Got it? Imagine with what emotion I discovered a queer little bit of steel with 4 holes punched in it, lying ready on the dockside, an insignificant little angel of a hull, but as I instinctively felt, my income tax. What? We were walking away from this complicated jigsaw puzzle when we came to a dry dock in which, queer sight in this nursery and hospital of the ironclad, lay a battered old workshop of the Trafalgar era. She had square yawning portholes and bow-windowed stern. "That is the old HMS Implacable," explained the guide, "which we captured from the French at the Battle of Trafalgar. She's been lying for years in Falmouth, and we are giving her a wash and brush up before sending her back as a training ship." Good old Implacable. The painters and decorators were climbing over her, every sweep of their brushes making her look as game as a fighting cock. Ding dong. When she takes the water again in her new coat of paint, with her, which is put on by Kevin Hall, by the way, painter and decorator, with her windows repaired and her hull patched, the new cruiser, if she is then ready, will instinctively salute her. Or at least I hope so. A whistle blows, and the battleship makers stop work. "All right, lads, tools down, come on now." They steam out in their thousands from the workshop and the dockside. 3 policemen stand, after getting up from their knee, before the gates and touch men at random on the shoulder. Such men double off at once to a little office near the gate, where other policeman runs, hands over them to make sure, apparently, that they're not taking the battleship out to lunch with them. What? Oh, I see, they're searching their pockets, are they? Over Davenport then falls an hour intense silence, in which a lean grey destroyer steams into dock. She may have something wrong with her engine, or her guns, or something wrong with her hull, or she may have sprained an ankle somewhere at sea. She struggles into the dock, with the sure knowledge that Mr. Davenport will feel her pulse and say, "Well, my dear lady, we'll have you right in no time." Davenport is doctor, nurse, and mother to the fleet, chiefly mother. Davenport's work, like that of a mother, is never done, because all the year through her big grey children come limping in from the sea to see her, and every year her new children leave her and go out to the ends of the earth. And that is the end of chapter 3. We're on chapter 4. Chapter 4, just to tell you very briefly. I fell in love with Cornwall. Gunpowder Richard. Mousel Richard. Mousel. Not Mousehole. Mousel Richard. Mark Selwood. He's from Cornwall. I fell in love with Cornwall and with a name, describes a hidden paradise and how wireless comes to Arcady. I meet Rain at Land's End, and late one evening climb a hill, grasping the key of Tintagel. But we'll have to wait till tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, for the next absorbing, thrilling, gripping episode of Dick Barton's Special Agent. No, sorry. Sorry, it's not Dick Barton. It's In Search of England by HV Morton. Yes, so there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Another gripping, exciting episode. Let's just, before we go, have a quick look at some of the comments that have come in. I love Demuria's novels. My favourite is Rebecca. I've read Rebecca, actually. I read Rebecca. It was a tedious old thing. No, it was all right. It was all right. But it was a bit tedious. The Scapegoat is a good novel. Alec Guinness was in a film there. Ah, right. I must read it at some point. The Admirable McBride up the road actually has the real Mayflower steps inside. The memorial at the harbour is just for the American tourists. Gee whiz, look at those lovely steps. Click. Catching up, says Sean's allotment. It's Davenport, says Mike Stevens. Thank you. Devon, yes, although spelt Davenport. Oh, Davon, yes, although spelt Davenport. So was I right to begin with? I know you both confused me there. Brave stony-faced club of the old giants. Yes, there we go. Past the mint sauce. Yes, she was a good writer. She is a good writer, Morton. What? Yes, she is a good writer, Morton. Oh, Morton, as it, not this Morton. Sorry, it confused me. We've got HV Morton and Morton Lewis. It's very... It seems that Nelson has the same voice as one of the characters in Splidge the Cragflinger. Yes, I think the same actor played the parts, to be honest with you. I think that's probably it. The Ham O's, the area where the three rivers meet, the Tamar, the Tavi, and the Linher. My brother was at Devon or Davenport, whichever the true it is. My God, says Morton Lewis in pure Spanish exclamation there. My God, he says. We live in an age of risk-aversion pygmies now compared to Marlborough. We certainly do. Ivor the engine. Oh, you've got the Ivor the engine. So the Smeatons and the Eddystone were part of my family, says Andrew Norris. Andrew Norris knows everybody. Andrew Norris is a huge extended family of very famous people, which is why he hides in Croatia in case they catch up with him. Ivor, the dirty old sooty engine driver, fornication. I always thought that was a station outside Chipping Ogar, so said Keith Moon on the Live at Leeds version. No idea what that means. No idea. Anyway, so there we are. Oh, wait a minute. There's some more stuff. Something about Snug and Cozy. A little bit of Snug and Cozy speaking. Oh, Snug and Cozy, of course, is Cozy, you slimpin' shlam slappard, but it's never you cozy tim flappard, or you chim, what me fresh him, you do a love a climpy clam flabadoo, what, oh, snimpy, oh, Cozy, have a sluicy, nice sluicy, oh, schlub, oh, lookin', growl flapper, welcome to the world of Squodge. Yes, there we go. Anyway, enjoyed the reading. Thank you very much. All a bit silly in the end. Great reading, Richard. Thank you very much. Navy Open Days at Portsmouth used to be good. Well read, says the lovely Julia. Thank you very much. Great read, blah, blah. Love the voices when you do. Never stop them. Thank you. I felt that schlop. Yes, I felt that, especially... Oh, gosh. You'd be careful when you do that. You can take your teeth out. Anyway... Nice to see you. No Vogue show this evening, thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd have another jolly old rant. But hopefully, I've got to sort out the necessary so that we can have tomorrow's Vogue show from Mr. Suggett's allotment, which will be interesting. Hopefully, will be interesting. Anyway, and also, other good news. You may not know this, but I have ordered a mixing console for the live shows, which should mean that we can do cooking shows and various things, and we can cut to cameras and all this. I need to get cameras, obviously, that's the next thing, but the mixing desk is coming tomorrow. £800 worth of how much was it? £800? Something like that. I can't remember now. Seems so long ago. £800 of this mixing desk that will hopefully make this even more tediously curious. Anyway, one of these days you'll end up knocking a tooth out doing that joke. What, this joke? Oh. Tutty bye, Richard. Tutty bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Take care. Look after yourselves, and I will return. I will do my best anyway. Bye-bye.